Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council's Emergency Preparedness Committee meeting of June 26, 2025. Um, my rules of engagement, Steve's rules of engagement are this is a public meeting of Minnesota government that has been properly posted for more than 3 days. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to the public. You are not required to provide your name or any personal/private data whatsoever. So if you don't like those rules so far, I have to kick you out of the meeting. Sorry. And the final thought for you is that in event you decide to turn on your camera, be advised that the body of law in Minnesota strongly indicates that photos and videos of individuals collected during public meetings are public data and not private data. So don't ask me why I have to do this, but I did. So it's behind us. Thank you very much. Okay, meeting housekeeping. Roll call is being auto recorded. Meet and greet, we can't do that over the internet. We're not going to. And the recording is in fact running and call to order. So I'm gaveling the meeting open right now. And the first order of business is the approval of agenda and approval of last minutes. The agenda as published has been made available. Are there any changes, deletions, or what do I say, modifications? I think I already said that with changes, but never mind. To the agenda. Going once, going twice, gone. In that case, can I have a motion to approve the minutes or the agenda? I'm sorry.
So moved, Randy.
So, second, please.
Second, Matt.
In keeping with the policy of we're on the internet, is there anyone opposed? Going once, going twice, gone. Thereby, our agenda is approved, and the last meeting minutes are as published as a video online. Do I have a motion to approve the last meeting minutes? Come on, somebody help me out.
So
This is
moved,
Britta.
Randy.
Oh, I'll second. It's Britta.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone opposed? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, last meeting minutes were approved. Takes us down to updates, issues, and good efforts. Okay, all you geospatial people, anybody know what this is?
Optical fiber.
Ah, very good. This is what the battlefield looks like in the eastern regions of Ukraine, western regions of Russia. And as you can see there by what they're doing now with drones, that drone there has a bomb on the top of it, and they're spooling out this stuff. I think the last thing I saw is they're going up to 50 kilometers deep with these drones now. And the whole idea of the fiber optic is they don't get jammed. So both the Russians and the Ukrainians are polluting the environment, not on top of what's already happening with war, but adding this to it. But anyway, just an interesting side note. Okay, advocacy, recent conferences, presentations given. You can see them there at April 9th. Folks that are involved in the Underground Utilities Mapping Project team, they went down and briefed Common Ground Alliance conference and expo. The report says that the entire room was filled, and the concurrence of the industry is that Minnesota has shown the way forward on what to do here. Um, June 3rd, June 5th, I went out on a little holiday, went around Lake Michigan, and then went over to Iowa. Knock on doors, talk to people about the use of U.S. National Grid for location markers as being a, if you will, a real way to put your hands on the value of U.S. National Grid. And while I'm thinking of it, Matt, when I get down to the USNG store, just a reminder that those questions that you asked me almost 2 years ago are now very clearly answered on the USNG store. So you can go take a look at that. Anyway, we also did outreach at the International Trail Symposium in Madison. Well received booth to the degree that we had to go after the first night. We had to go to Kinko's and run off additional copies of the brochures that we were handing out because the demand for what we were showing people about how to do a marking on trail systems that works with GPS. There was a lot of enthusiasm for it. Advisory, or I should say advocacy for some upcoming items, opportunities to go out and manage to look around out there, would include the Association of Minnesota Emergency Managers Fall Conference. That's September 15th through the 18th at Breezy Point. You can see the rest of them. They wander on all the way down to the end of the year. And what I have done with that as a reminder, I've gone through, and if I can get this thing to advance, I've gone through on our calendar and any event that I knew about that would be in existence through the end of the year, I've loaded them all in there to include, for instance, Stacy's next upcoming infrastructure assessment meetings, when the MAC meetings or the MGAC meetings are taking place, so on and so forth. So you can go take a look at that if you want to get a better overall sense of what's going on. I'm sure you're aware by now that, as I more or less briefed last time we were together, there is a new Minnesota HSEM director. She took over the reins over there in early May. So Allison is lucky enough to be coming in the door when this new state EOC is going to be coming online in 2025. Construction started in fall of 2023. It's a $41 million facility, and it's out there in Blaine, Minnesota. And you can see the governor was so enthused about this that he got out there with a shovel and was helping get things started. So that is a good sign. And interestingly enough, I would label that thing as a thing of beauty because finally, we're going to have a state EOC that's outside the metro core, which in like EOC planning is the number one thing you ought to be doing. And as you can see where it's going to be located up in Blaine, but let's go take a drive by because it's in a quiet grassland, grassland area is going to become, are you ready for this? Drum roll, please. It's a castle with a moat. Literally, if you go look at this place, and this was snapped by Airbus in 2025. As you can see, because of the kind of land that thing sits on, it easily enough has got water. The water table's not too far down. And I know that's just Earth disturbance, but if you look at it from space, it looks like they built themselves a place with a moat around it. Anyway, fun. Other updates? Anybody got any? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, issues. Being the patriarch of the branch of the Swazee clan that spells its name that way, Swazee, and knowing we're the only branch that does that, I can make claim that I was in Playboy magazine in 1979. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but anyway. Okay, the folks that came over to the USNG implementation work group meeting have already heard to some degree about this, but it bears repeating because particularly so for guys like Matt Goodman and Britta Maddox, Anybody that's got direct engagement with the emergency services sector, this is going to be an impactful event. What this is, and I'm not going to get down in the weeds stuff. I'm not a lawyer, but I read through the case in a very thorough way, and it's an argument over the supremacy clause of the Constitution and what the Federal Tort Claims Act allows for, whatever. Doesn't matter. The end result of where this thing goes is that the Supreme Court heard this case, and if you can get our current Supreme Court to decide anything 9-zip, it tells you something about the level of agreement, I guess, or how out of bounds something might have been. What they did was they rejected a case that just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Here it is. This case has its roots in a 2017 pre-dawn raid, read that as 3:30 in the morning, by the FBI in a home in suburban Atlanta. It's up to the northwest of where the airport is, if you're familiar with Atlanta. But anyway, you see that the residents there and their 7-year-old son got awoke at that time of the morning. Take a look at where the agents landed and where they thought where they were going. The agents had intended to execute a search warrants at Landau Lane, where they believed the suspected gang members were hiding, but instead they used a personal GPS to end up at a completely different address. Oops. Now, Randy, you've got that really good eyeball. Given the location of where these two buildings are, the one there up here on top is the where they were supposed to be going, and this is where they actually ended up. And I'll be referencing this blue circle as an intersection. I'll show you that too in a bit. How far are they apart, Randy? Here, I'll make it even easier for you.
200 feet,
How far?
200 feet, 200 meters.
Okay, Dira, quick, do the calculation. Across the top there is the easting, and across the bottom is the northing. And if you subtract the two, you end up with what? 120 meters, at least. What does 120 meters look like? Yeah, well, there it is. We're not talking just the playing part of the field or even including the end zones. We're talking about out of the back of the end zones on each end of the field. That's how far apart these two locations were. It wasn't like they went in the next door to the next door, if you know what I'm saying. So remember that intersection I was talking about? Well, it's one thing that those guys goofed up and say, hey, they goofed up. It's the personal GPS. But as an aircraft investigator, accident investigator, one of the things I've known over the years is you're supposed to dig deeper to figure out what the heck went wrong here. So it's a neighborhood of newer homes. And, here's another clue. This is as of 25. So that raid was back in 17, 8 years ago. What does that blue line indicate? It indicates where Google has done street view drive-by. 8 years after this incident, and they still haven't even done that into that neighborhood. Does that make any difference? Well, maybe. Because here's why it never happened. It's indicative of the problem that street addresses are not always a panacea for figuring out where you're going. Google doesn't go in there because it's private property. Now, in an accident investigation for aircraft, you always start out with something called causal factors. And they always start reading by something like failure to. Here we go. Failure to keep the GPS database current. failure to do map study, failure to use a backup location confirmation of some sort, and failure to understand street house numbering. If you're on the south side or the east side, the number is going to be odd. And if you're north or west, it's going to be even. And then the lower considered things are called contributing factors, maybes, because I don't know the circumstances well enough. Private neighborhood, Fulton County database, maybe that there was a mistake in it. And was there a house picture not available like on realtor.com? I think all the way back in 17 there would have been. Anyway, what's this case potentially going to cost? It's hard to know because this thing's been kicked back to the lower court because now they removed the barrier from these guys to sue, but you can count on it being in the millions of dollars. Because here's what the Supremes say. Yet it is hard to see how Guerrera's I can't see it because of Zoom, but hold on. Conduct in this case including his alleged negligent choice to use his personal GPS and his failure to check street sign or house number on a mailbox before breaking down Martin's door and terrorizing the home's occupants involved the kind of policy judgments that discretionary function exception was designed to protect. Now, here they wandered back into this thing called the Federal Torts Claims Act. Again, it doesn't matter because you get to the same place. Every time there's going to be something like this happening, this is on the federal side, this is FBI, the dollars of this thing are going to keep bringing forward. Okay, here we go. Go back one. Because it's the equivalent of location ignorance is no defense in the eyes of the law. I can't walk into court and say, well, Judge, you can't find me because I didn't know that was the law. It doesn't work. Effectively, what the Supreme Court has done here is said, if you're like totally out to lunch like this, stand by to get sued because we're not going to allow these other clauses in here to protect you. So there's the bottom line for Britta and Matt and anybody else. The GIS community needs to help the ESS get geospatially smart. What has Randy been doing for the last 20 years? In some form or fashion, beating the drum about how important this is. U.S. National Grid, etc., etc., etc. Because this incident that I just talked about in Georgia wasn't just an isolated event. And if Corey was in the call, she'd fill us in on what happened over in St. Paul when these two poor kids got buried. But
I am
anyway,
on the call, Steve.
okay, there you go. So you'd tell them, wouldn't you, Corey, that there was a lot of fumbling around trying to get there and describe what the location was, I would believe. Is that correct?
That is correct. It was a very unfortunate situation where the majority of emergency services actually got routed to streets that were above the top of the bluff, and they were having to find ways to scale down because they were unable to find the access from the
Yeah.
bottom side.
And St. Paul, I don't mean to even minimize the fact that what we're talking about people is people losing their lives. But usually, unfortunately, it takes money before bureaucrats start paying attention to stuff. And St. Paul, quite frankly, got off easy here. I think it was $1.2 million. Families didn't even take them to court. They settled out of court. But you can count on some of these other cases that I just ran by. People aren't going to be getting off that easy in the future. Okay, this takes down to good efforts. I mean, here's some dudes that are ready for the 4th of July. Hey, Pixel, come on, get with the party, dude. Okay, good efforts. The USNG store is open. There it is, usngstore.org. I would strongly encourage you to go take a look. It's less about being a store, and it's way more, if you go look at it, about serving as an information center once again about how the product that this group, the ELM, has mutated into being an application of the U.S. national grid in a profound way that is saving lives, is reducing response times. So my hat's off to everybody that over the years have contributed to that project. We're going to be using the store for a period of time, basically pretty much through the summer, to cover the bridge the time while the rework of, again, another product of this group, the U.S. National Grid Information Center, gets retooled. There's a lot of broken stuff in there, a lot of outdated information, and that thing's going to get reworked, and hopefully by fall, we'll have that back up and running as well. My hat is off to Mike Sovereign, who his artistic ability in working on that USNG center, or rather the store, really made it zing. So a big thanks to Mike. I also need to mention that I don't know if Jim's going to call it 2.1 or not, but an updated version of the usngapp.org is online. You can see the three things that were done to update it. You have to delete the old one and then reload to get the new version up and running. But a lot of subtle but important improvements to it. So that
It should update on its own.
What's
It
that?
might take. It should update on its own.
It should, but for some reason, me being the Apple klutz that I am,
Okay.
it for some reason didn't quite do what I was expecting it to do. But anyway, um, just so you're aware of it. But again, thank you, Jim Klassen, very much. I mean, that project, again, another thing that was developed out of this group. And the reality is, I'll tell you just a quick story. We were down at the event in Madison, Wisconsin for the Trails group, and there was a gal next door to us that was a part of the Wisconsin Horse Riders group, and she's actually the emergency manager up at Proto Bay, Alaska. You know, like all the way up there at the top of the world. And guess what? They don't have Next Gen 911 up there. They don't have E911 up there. But what they now have, in which they have come back and told us this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, is they got usngapp.org as their way to communicate as to where an incident has taken place out on the oil fields or in a building or whatever. And as you imagine where they are, you know, a quick response in the cold is probably a good thing. So, you know, once again, an indicator of how people that were in this group are actually working to save lives and make other people's lives better. Okay, what did I forget? Are there other victories or defeats out of my rapid spew that I am forcing out into the crowd? Going once, going twice, gone. All right, moves us down to project team reports. I get to come up for air. Thank goodness. All right, so there's your leadership team. I'm not going to read names. You can read them as well as I can. The next meeting of the leadership team is to be announced or to be determined. And I'm sure on whatever website or function gets used going forward, that will be made available as to the date and time if you'd like to drop in, because those meetings are committee, or I should say public meetings as well, and anybody can attend them. As you may remember from last time we talked, the Minnesota fiscal year 26-27 work plan was something that the MGAC decided a way it wanted to proceed forward was to do 2 years at a time for a work plan. And as I've got there in a square box up there on the right upper right hand side, I'm showing you where you can find that work plan. what page to go to. It's called Governance, and down there at the bottom, you'll see the Minnesota Fiscal Year 2027 Work Plan if you want to go find it. There is a change of command getting ready to happen. This will be the last time I'm going to be in front of you blabbing, which I'm sure is a huge relief to many of you. Britta will be taking over effective the 30th of September. I will remain on as a residual up to that time to be able to be here to make sure that pass down and set up for other meetings or whatever goes without a hitch for that, for Britta and others that have stepped forward to fill in behind me. They're able to do it without any trouble. So she comes from a very strong response world experience, and we look forward very much to Britta taking over. Britta, do you want to chime in with anything at this point? Or you're driving, aren't you?
No, I'm stationary still, but
Okay.
no, I just thank you for the introduction, and I'm excited about what we can do going forward. So we'll see what this brings. And I have big shoes to fill, and it won't be the same, but I'll do my best.
And that's all anybody can do in this whole world. So thank you very much, Britta. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, that takes us down to the critical infrastructure assessment team. That is going to be the top priority, I believe, for the coming fiscal year. Kind of a refocus as things take place here with a shift. And I think that means, Stacy, please, if you're with us today, you have the floor for as long as you'd like to have it. Well, not exactly.
Hi. Yeah, not don't have anything prepared. We have another meeting. Our next meeting is August 12th. I think you did say you put those on the calendar. And we are meeting every about 8 weeks now, doing some work in between with a smaller group, just trying to get some connections made with the Department of Health on maybe a workflow to get some health facilities data geocoded, working with another group to work with the fire marshal's office to get their blessing on our fire station data that we have published, and hoping we can work with them to loop them into the workflow and engage them in interests so that they understand the desire of the geospatial community to have these data. And then there's just some other topics that we've covered, working closely with the Data Endorsement Committee of the Geospatial Advisory Council to get data sets like that through an endorsement process so they can be more visible as a official or kind of vetted resource. But that's about it. And yeah, please join us. We're always looking for new members and new perspectives. It's great if anybody new wants to just join even for a couple of meetings just to hear how they use critical infrastructure, geospatial location data, and what the needs are out there. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Stacy. And I'm going to emphasize that I consider the work that Stacy and Allison are involved in trying to get us to the point where there are state endorsed data layers for these critical infrastructure elements. That is singularly going to be one of the most important things this committee's ever done. So my hat's off to you for carrying the ball on that, and I look forward to hearing great things about it. So thank you, Stacy. Okay.
Thanks for your support, Steve.
Okay, here we go. Underground utilities mapping. Kelly Conley is the boss. I'm the vice chair, so you get the brief from me. This project has been underway for 5 years, and it is gone. The two components where it made sense for there to be the heavy geospatial involvement piece in trying to help resolve how they got better, more accurate maps into the field so people aren't digging up electrical lines when they thought the ground was clear underneath, those sorts of things. Two pieces of software ended up being developed out of that, and both of them are well on the way to being finished by the end of the year. And then phases 3 and 4, they're off to the side, augmented reality and the digital model thing. That is more or less going to have to be industry driven once they figure out what direction they want to go with that. So um, the timeline as it sits right now, the last UUMPT meeting, which that's the thing I run on behalf of that group, that's going to happen on September 25th. The next highlighted one down there, I'm out the door on September 29th. Um, the the Gopher State One Call, that's what GSOC and OCC is, the One Call Concepts. Their implementation of Fusion View just went by what's called the release candidate, and now they're down to getting ready to turn on what's known as production. Gopher State One Call, if you see the name Site X-Ray, that's actually, again, the product that ended up being developed out of this effort, driven by, again, a project team from this group. Initial operating capability OIC, September 30th, and then down there at the bottom, we're still kind of thinking there might be some reason to get together one last time around December 11th for kind of a handoff to whether it gets picked up by the Common Ground Alliance or whatever direction that goes. Gopher State One Call still trying to figure that out. And then last but not least, the last of the stuff's going to be released, the Fusion View on open source release targeted by no later than December 31st. So that's more or less the update on that. The next meeting, again, you can always find this stuff on the calendar, including the links to get there. September 25th, 2025. Again, since this thing's coming out of the chute in late September, this will become something that's commonly addressed or thought about within the greater geospatial community and the underground community. So be aware that's coming. Takes us down to education. Corey called me up. She's passionate about getting going on doing some, uh, community development stuff that supports training both on the emergency responder side and on the geospatial side. But currently, we're running the education and the online education and outreach function. You can see the website hits over here on the left-hand side. We're going to probably come in about halfway between 24 and 23 by the end of the year, just under 3,000 hits on the website. We've got currently right now 90 videos up on the YouTube channel, and we see about 100 and some individuals come by and take a look at something each month, which is 100 more opportunities to train and educate people. So that's all that has been a substantial effort in terms of being able to do outreach educationally. And then last but not least, you can see where our meeting averages are. Obviously, today's a little bit down from the. Okay, I blabbed right by you, Corey. Is there anything else you want to add?
You captured everything right now, Steve, so I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Takes us down to geospatial assistance. Brian Huberty's the man on the dot on that until he decides, nah, maybe I don't want to do that after all. But the concept was to try to put together a what is available for remote sensing and other geospatial tools to support disaster response operations. And Brian, I know from us talking, you wanted to chat a little bit about what's gone up and gone down, I should say, in northern Minnesota. So Floor is yours for 2 minutes. Otherwise, I get fired.
A derecho hit the Bemidji area, basically snapping hundreds of thousands, millions of trees. A major cleanup effort's underway. And there was a call on this with the Minnesota Forest Resource Council on Wednesday, and the basic question of, well, how large was this area? And nobody knows. The DNR has reached out, the aerial photographer, to see if anybody wants imagery flown. Again, it's typical state bureaucracy of nobody knows how to pay them, how to do it, because they're soft funded. I'm guessing something will get done here in the near future. And then I just talked to Don, who can follow up here in a second with Civil Air Patrol, what they're planning on doing. But more importantly, on the wildfire side, this morning there was a House hearing on wildfire technologies, and they were talking about everything from satellites, drones, aircraft, and the need for investment for the future. So stay tuned for that on how this gets formulated, because they really do want to create sort of a one wildfire agency across the country to reduce a lot of the duplication effort, because they heard from significant panel members about how things are not working. In particular, the chief of the fire department from San Bernardino was quite good. And he basically said, we don't have a technology problem, we have a technology adoption problem. And he nailed it. That's it.
So Brian sent me a number of great links that I will be sending out to all of you as a function of the wrap-up notes. Don, is there information you'd like to add about what's going on with CAP?
Yeah, we've been talking to the Leech Lake reservation up there, the emergency manager. He made a formal request to us for airborne photography. We're going to use our new Waldo system that takes downward and oblique shots as we fly a pattern with it. And then this morning we talked to Bemidji, and because they're right next to each other, they're putting together their request, and then we'll be able to, hopefully the same day, either do the Waldo mission or standard photography mission for them. But yeah, so we're ready to do it. We have trained crews and we have aircraft. So yeah, see what happens.
Thank you very much,
Weather
Don.
dependent. Yeah, it's all weather dependent too, as you can look out the window.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that takes us down to be announced what way that's going to go forward. If you want to get involved or chat with Brian, there's his email. Give him a holler, and maybe good things will happen. Response, U.S. National Grid. Randy Knippel's on the call. I want to mention before he gets going here that the U.S. National Grid Institute, which again kind of spun out of the EPC here, is gotten very active in sending out letters. On April 8th, one was sent out to the U.S. Census Bureau. One was sent out to the FCC on its rulemaking about location accuracy. And another one was sent out about the Esri grid overlay widget, which I hope Randy will at least take a drive-by on. And before he gets going, I would just want to mention all three of those things that I just talked to you about. You can find them at usngi.org in the news section. The letter written to the FCC is particularly enlightening. I would strongly recommend that if you have any interest in this stuff, go take a read of it. Randy, you got the floor.
Well, my focus is primarily working with the implementation working group. There is an item on my to-do list to revisit the U.S. National Grid maps for the state of Minnesota, which has been applied incidentally in other states as well, and make sure that I can update those maps as well as hand off or document and hand off the capability to someone else at MnGeo. Dakota County had been hosting those maps, and we want to pass that off to MnGeo. So I have to coordinate with MnGeo and Dakota County to get that done. And that's on my to-do list, finished by the end of the year. Haven't started it yet, but I do have the capabilities of using ArcGIS Pro again, thanks to Shared Geo. So I am able to do that. We just need to find the time and the focus to get that done. Regarding the things that Steve mentioned, the one thing that I discovered was that there was a grid overlay widget for Web App Builder. That was a real nice widget that would allow you to simply just plug it in and allow the user to configure at which scale different levels of the grid would appear, different resolutions of the grid, the colors of the grid, colors of the labels, and providing that all in an interactive application very easily. However, as Esri has his sunset in Web App Builder and moved to Experience Builder, this widget was not included in their migration list. So I discovered this through the Esri Community Forum. There was a comment out there from NAPSIG, which is the National Alliance of Public Safety GIS Professionals, with which we have coordinated on some national grid efforts in the past, like the implementation guide. And they had submitted a comment to the community forum about that. I chimed in, added some additional information. We wrote a letter from the implementation work group. I made NAPSIG aware of the IWG, as well as the fact that we had provided a letter to Esri and asked them to do the same. I did have a communication with the director of NAPSIG, and he was very interested in doing that. He's very concerned about Esri's support for the national grid. So I need to follow up on that, see where that's gone. But if you do any searching, if you go look in the Esri Community Forum, you should be able to find that posting. And if you comment, that would be great. It would just help reinforce the need for Esri to do that. So thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Randy. Really appreciate that. As you can see, there's a posting. The next time the implementation, I should say, work group is going to meet October 8th. You can swing by, find out what's going on. Takes us down to old business and new business. Is there any old business? Going once, going twice, gone. Is there any new business? Going once, going twice, gone. Takes us down to comments, announcements, other business. The floor is open. Does anybody have any additional comments or announcements or other business that they'd like to bring to the forefront? Everybody wants to go home or run around outside in the rain or something. I don't know. Okay, here we go. We move on to what are we going to do for Volunteer of the Quarter? Drum roll, please. Who is the designee this time? There he is, Volunteer of the Quarter. Brian, yeah, he's shaking his head. The EPC's remote sensing expert. Here's your citation, Brian. Brian Huberty has served as the EPC's remote sensing expert for more than 16 years. During that time, he has significantly contributed to the committee by leading efforts which supported the 2008 Republican National Convention security operations, 2009-2010 Red River Valley flooding disaster responses, and numerous other severe weather and flooding events across the state. Oz eager to contribute his knowledge acquired from his many years as the lead remote sensing scientist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Brian has also worked diligently to develop various local training events, often featuring speakers who would otherwise not be available at the state level, such as representatives of the Civil Applications Committee and the USGS's Earth Resources Observation and Science Center. Of special note, Brian has been one of the EPC's most passionate promoters. Several individuals who he personally recruited have gone on to contribute substantially to committee projects. An exemplary member of Minnesota's geospatial community, Brian is the EPC's Volunteer of the Quarter for second quarter of 2025. Thank you very much, Brian. Your efforts in the past have been very much appreciated, and I can tell by how red you look that this is something that Brian does not like to be called out on and made note of, but it's well deserved, And all of us owe a debt to you to have the level of expertise that you have here. So thank you very much. Okay. Your certificate, by the way, Brian, and your letter will be in the mail this weekend.
I,
Any
I'll,
comments?
well, I can tell you the dog's not impressed. She's just sacked out on the floor here. But yeah, thank you very much, Steve.
Well deserved, Brian. Well deserved. Okay. Takes us now to the next EPC meeting to be determined. This stuff will pop up online, or with the wrap up notes, I will pass that along and you'll be on your way. Takes us now to a motion to adjourn. Do I have one from the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Anybody opposed? Hearing no one opposed, the meeting is now adjourned. All right, here you go. Closing quote is press on. Anybody seen this before? It's pretty famous, but it's one of my favorite. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men or women with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. And from all people of the world, Calvin Coolidge. But it's a great quote. All right. Final thought for you. My most sincere thank you to everyone I've had the opportunity to work with on the EPC. It's been a great ride because of you. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Wait, Steve, don't hang up yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
you have a question.
Well, I don't really have a question. Thanks for your all that context. That was very interesting. Yeah, it kind of makes me sad that it's been such a long, hard road to do some things that seemed very obvious or seemed obvious way back in 2005. Yeah. But I want to just thank you because you have just been such a mentor and a leader in the space, and you've given us so much to think about and kept this committee moving even when some of us were dragging our feet a little bit. So I'm gonna just send my request to share my screen. Can I share my screen for a second?
You're not going to embarrass me or anything, are you?
No. No. This is just a little, I just wanted to make sure that everybody acknowledged that Steve's done a lot of great work here. And we are going to, the Geospatial Advisory Council is wanting to acknowledge you at the next meeting as well. So I hope you can attend that. But in case anybody on this call is not there, thanks for your leadership on this committee. And Britta is going to step in as the chair of the Emergency Preparedness Committee at this point, and it still remains to be seen if there is somebody who is interested in co-chairing. We welcome that. We're not able to just fill Steve's shoes with just, it's not going to be just one person filling your shoes. So we're going to keep things going, and we'll probably be calling you up, but you can feel free to ignore.
You mean I'd have to put down my margarita while I'm sun tanning on the beach?
Yeah, maybe. No, we won't bother you too much, but we'll try to get as much out of you as we can before September.
Yeah, I'm gonna work real hard to make sure I got everything as organized as I can as I hand it off, because I sincerely hope I know by the personalities that are here that you'll do great going forward. And I'm sure that particularly with the data thing, that the potential there, as I've said, about showing the nation that it's a new group and they're just as passionate and just as engaged. So I look forward to hearing, those kinds of
Yeah.
reports.
Well, I'm hopeful we'll figure some more of that out.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
that's all I wanted to say, but thanks again.
Well, thank you very much. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here today. You have a great weekend and a great 4th of July. Take care.
Thank you, Steve, for the
Thank you,
invite.
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Steve.
Thanks.
Great
Right
work.
Thank
on.
you
I want to
so
drink
much.
margaritas. The margaritas sounded good, just saying. We can have a little happy hour at some point.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You're
See
buying
ya.
though. You're buying. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.